More than 4,700 men entered Antarctica with ships, aircraft, fuel, cameras, radios, and military discipline. One airplane still vanished. Officially, Operation Highjump was built to train personnel, test equipment, establish Little America 4, and map a continent still poorly known. Its size later attracted rumors of secret bases, hidden technology, and unexplored lands beyond the pole. Evidence for those claims never became solid. But Highjump did produce a mystery that was real. How could 9 men disappear inside one of the largest expeditions of its time? On December 30th, 1946, the PBM 5 mariner known as George I departed from the seaplane Tender Pine Island on a reconnaissance flight. There were 9 people aboard: pilots, aircrew, specialists, and an observer. Every seat carried a different responsibility if something failed. The mission looked routine: photograph coastline, chart unfamiliar terrain, and return before the weather closed the route back to the ship. In Antarctica, routine can disappear faster than the horizon. A small weather change can erase every reference a pilot trusts. Before takeoff, emergency food, blankets, medical supplies, and signaling equipment were loaded. These ordinary objects would soon matter more than the airplane. The crew dressed for flight, not for 13 days on exposed ice. Protection existed, but every layer had limits. The engines came alive, and George I moved away from the ship into freezing spray and low cloud. Inside the cockpit, the world was reduced to analog gauges, radio calls, heading, altitude, fuel, and what could be seen through glass. At first, the coastline offered contrast: dark rock, broken ice, ridges, and shadows that allowed the crew to judge height and distance. Then the cloud lowered. Snow began to blend with the sky. The dark shapes on the coast became fewer, softer, and harder to trust. Radio reports could describe weather, but they could not rebuild a horizon that was no longer visible. The safest choice was to abort. The crew prepared to turn back toward Pine Island before visibility became completely useless. But by then, the sky and the ground were becoming the same color. Whiteout is not darkness. It is light scattered so evenly that slopes, ridges, and distance can become nearly invisible. A pilot may believe the aircraft is level and safely above the surface while the terrain is rising directly into the flight path. Maps could show where mountains should be. They could not show every unseen ridge in a region that had barely been photographed. The surface rose beneath George I without giving the crew a clear visual warning. The pilot began the turn back. There was almost no time between recognizing danger and meeting it. George I struck the snow-covered ridge. The impact tore metal, threw equipment forward, and turned the cabin into a narrow trap filled with broken structure. Fuel ignited. Fire became a second emergency inside an aircraft already buried in snow. 2 men were killed immediately. A third died later from his injuries. The surviving 6 had no way to change that first calculation. Their first task was not grief. It was extraction. Remove the living before fire, cold, or collapsing metal took anyone else. They dragged usable gear away from the burning section and waited for the flames to consume what they could not save. When the fire died, the silence became enormous. No engine, no ship, no road, and no visible sign that anyone knew their position. The flight plan offered a search area, not an exact crash site. In a featureless landscape, a few miles could hide an entire aircraft. Walking away might find shelter. It might also separate the survivors from the largest object search crews could possibly see. They stayed with George I. The broken aircraft became landmark, windbreak, supply depot, and the center of every decision. Emergency rations were counted, separated, and protected from snow. Survival began with inventory, not courage. Every injury had to be examined without a hospital, proper heat, or certainty that rescue would arrive the next day. The pilot, Ralph LeBlanc, was badly burned and would later lose both legs. Keeping him alive demanded constant care from the others. The least injured men took the heaviest work: salvage, shelter, water, signals, and care for those who could not move easily. The first night was not fully dark, but it was colder, quieter, and psychologically longer than any clock could measure. Cold rarely kills in one dramatic instant. It first takes dexterity, judgment, balance, and the ability to complete simple tasks. A zipper that will not move, a match dropped in snow, or a knot tied badly can become a survival problem. Moisture was dangerous. Sweat from work or melted snow inside clothing could steal heat once movement stopped. Boots and socks had to remain as dry as possible. Feet that lost circulation could become impossible to save. Snow could provide water, but melting it required fuel or body heat. Eating it directly could lower body temperature further. Food was measured in calories and days. Eating more offered warmth now, but reduced the margin if rescue came late. Sleep had to be shared with watch duty. Someone listened for aircraft while others tried to recover inside the cramped shelter. Pain, cold, and uncertainty could make people withdraw. The group survived by turning every hour into specific work. Search crews began looking along the expected route. They faced the same weather that had erased George 1. Navigators divided the coast into sectors, but the maps were incomplete and the wreck could lie outside the most likely line. From the air, black metal should have been visible. In practice, snow covered the fuselage and flattened its shadow. For several days, no aircraft appeared. Clear weather at the wreck did not mean the seaplane tender 200 miles away could launch a search. The survivors built signals from wreckage and emergency equipment: a fixed antenna, a marked wing, and material prepared for a signal fire. Their emergency transmitter worked only by human effort. One man cranked the generator while another sent automatic distress calls into the empty air. They could transmit, but they could not restore the aircraft receiver. The damaged battery produced power, then the headphones remained silent. Without an answer, every transmission remained an act of faith. The crew returned to water, bandages, shelter repairs, and rationing. They marked the passage of days because time without structure can become another form of exposure. Wind and fresh snow slowly changed the wreck's shape. The landmark searchers needed was being absorbed by the continent. Rations stretched because the crew had carried a substantial emergency supply. Even so, every meal made the remaining pile smaller. Survival depended on cooperation more than individual toughness. One person watched, another worked, another cared for the injured. Decades later, stories would claim Highjump discovered hidden bases, strange machines, or a world beyond the mapped ice. No solid historical evidence confirms those claims. The official records describe training, mapping, equipment tests, accidents, and hard logistical limits. The real danger required no secret enemy. Antarctica could hide a large aircraft in open daylight while thousands of people searched. Most of the continent remained unseen at human scale. Aerial photographs filled maps, but they did not make the ground predictable. By the 13th day, the survivors had endured injury, cold, rationing, failed signals, and the possibility that the search might end. On January 11th, a search aircraft finally identified the wreck, the survivors, and a message indicating that 3 men had died. The search crew circled and photographed the site. The 6 moving figures proved that the missing aircraft still held survivors. Rescue still required another difficult flight and a landing away from the wreck, near the coast where the seaplane could reach open water. The survivors and rescuers then moved the injured pilot by sled across snow, crevasses, and coastal ice toward the waiting aircraft. When they reached the seaplane, 6 men were alive. 3 had died, and Ralph LeBlanc would face permanent, life-changing injuries. The crash became one of Operation Highjump's clearest lessons. Machines, numbers, and planning could reduce risk, but never eliminate Antarctica. Highjump continued long enough to produce photographs, tests, and hard-earned knowledge, but its original schedule was shortened by conditions and logistics. The operation did not prove a hidden civilization. It proved how little control even a massive force had over distance, weather, and visibility. You survived the impact only if you escaped the burning aircraft. You survived the cold only if the group kept functioning. You survived 13 days only if rescuers searched the right piece of white at the right moment. So the question is not what waited beneath the ice. It is whether you could keep making correct decisions when the world gave you no horizon.